Hi guys, Jamie here. Welcome to another episode of An Idiot's Guide to Getting Started in Property. I've been buying and selling property for the last 6 years. I've currently got several properties in my own name, and in the last 10 months, I've started a property company with a partner, and we're looking to do flips and BRR. So we've just completed our first flip at the moment, actually. There's a link to it in the bio. Um, what I wanted to talk to you guys today about is really property mentors. I'm seeing a lot of really concerning stuff. Um, People who've been in the game 12 months, 18 months, 6 months, and are actually starting to mentor other people, which I think is quite odd. Now, call me old fashioned, but if you want to get rich, ask a rich man. If you want to be a great actor, speak to Robert De Niro, not someone who's doing it down the road. You know, um, that is certainly the view that I take anyway. As I said, my property journey has been pretty pedestrian over the last few years. Just bought my first property, bought another, just sort of didn't really know how to do it, didn't really understand it too much, was just sort of buying because I thought that that's the way, that's the way you do things to try and build up a portfolio. Um, and it's really only in the last sort of year that I've been diving into YouTube, looking at these different property mentors, looking at who does things right, who does things wrong, um, being quite a keen observer of the Samuel Leeds versus Shaf Rasul saga. Um, for any of you that haven't seen that, I suggest watching it on how the right way to do things and the wrong way to do things. There used to be a really cool program on TV called Hustle, and one of the taglines was, "If it seems too good to be true, then it usually is." And I think that's definitely the case with property mentors. If they're saying, "Oh, you'll get X amount return on investment, you'll be financially free, you'll be a millionaire in your first year," all this sort of stuff, it's sort of alarm bells should really be ringing. We all want the lottery ticket. We all want the magic pill that's going to make us rich, successful, all of that stuff. But unfortunately, there is no substitute for hard work. And I think if people are watching this and they're doing their research, um, you need to really understand that people who are promising you this financial freedom and no money down, all this stuff, it's just not practical. Um, you really need to have some skin in the game. You need to save up, invest your own funds. If you want to use investors, that's fine, but you need to be able to convince those investors that you know what you're doing. Otherwise, it just becomes a house of cards. You borrow money from this investor, you borrow money from that investor, and without those fundamental bits of knowledge, then you're going to fall down, um, and that house of cards come tumbling down. And not only will you have no money, but you also will have lost the faith of your investors, and given yourself a bad name, which is not good at all. Um, so so yeah, I just wanted to make that point really to do your due diligence. It's a bit of a buzzword at the moment for those in property and in investments. Due diligence. This is company's house any good? Do you use due dil? All that sort of thing. Um, I would always suggest check company's house first. It's not perfect because obviously the accounts are put in. They're sort of backdated. So for example, we set up a company late last year. None of the accounts are in it yet because they're not due. But we finished the first flip on a property, so they will be in there shortly. And there are a lot of cases like that. But it's very important you can get a good idea of people. Social media is another one. If they're hanging around in a Range Rover, sat in front of a mansion, who are they trying to convince, you or them? Uh, a lot of the richest people in the world are the most humble people in the world, and I think the loudest one in the room is the weakest one in the room. If somebody's always trying to convince you that they're the best, they're the richest, they're the most successful, they're the most powerful, they've done this, they've done that, with very little evidence, then you know, again, alarm bell should be ringing, and you should be, questioning that. Um, Also, guys, if you're looking to get a property mentor, I'm seeing some extortionate prices being banded around, thousands of pounds for mentoring, all this sort of stuff. I mean, if I come from the charity sector, so I've worked for the past 8 years for a charity. I know now, head up the business development for that charity, um, as my full time job. In that charity world, if you want to speak to someone, you want to elevate yourself, there are plenty of opportunities to go and network, to pick up the phone, to ask a CEO of another charity how they do this, how they do that. And I think it's very much the same in property. Really successful people are usually quite happy to share their wealth and share their knowledge. Um, I think it's quite odd then that people would be charging thousands and in some cases tens of thousands of pounds, for their expertise. When if they're doing 100 properties a year and all this sort of stuff, then surely their time would be better spent elsewhere on those properties. But two guys who I've looked into and I think are really fantastic property investors, property developers, if you call them that. They are really, really good. Is a guy called Ross Harper. He's a Scottish guy. Does a lot up there, and another guy called Adam Lawrence. They work together, I think, in lots of stuff. I learned about these guys on something called the Rodcast, which is a podcast. So if you look up that, on iTunes or however you find it, the Rodcast, and a guy called Adam Lawrence and another guy called Ross Harper. Those guys really know their stuff. And again, further in the point, very, very humble. They're not saying, "Oh, I drive this, I drive that, I do this, I do that," and they've certainly got their views on these so-called property gurus or furus, as Shaf calls them. So I think those guys are well worth looking into and how they do their stuff. Um, and again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. If you really want to get there, and I'm not there yet, I'm still working my way and trying to do as best I can, trying to learn all the time, constantly on YouTube, podcasts, reading books, all that sort of stuff, to try and further my knowledge. And I think if I can sort of pass on anything that I've learned, is to research, 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 look at the fundamentals. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Um, and keep an eye out for those fake property gurus and the so-called mentors. All right, guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate you listening in. Sorry, it's a bit of a boring one today. There's not much editing going on, but I just thought I'd share that with you because it's something that piqued my interest. And also, the final thing: ask an expert. If you're reviewing an auction pack or you need something to do that a solicitor can do, ask the solicitor. He is the expert or she is the expert. If you want to go and do a site survey and look at a property, get a surveyor to come and look at it. They are the experts. Don't ask someone who's been in the game 12, 18 months. I think they know it all because they're playing with other people's money. You need to ask an expert. Cannot stress that enough. Thanks very much, guys. Take care. Hit like and subscribe if you've made it this far. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.